Well, after many weeks of troubleshooting and various things I've done to the truck, I think I finally beat not a check engine code, because the check engine codes weren't on. However, the engine drivability was definitely in question, and I had various problems: some surging, some high idle, a really rich mixture, and of course, it could be a whole host of things on this Ford F-150 and the 5.0s. So I've seen a lot of videos out there. However, I've never really seen people give the real solutions to the problem. So I figured I'd make a video so you guys can understand what I had to go through in order to fix my truck and get it running properly. First, I want to talk about the symptoms. The symptoms that I had was that the car would run super rich. At first, the idle wasn't bad, and it would run fine, but the mixture was completely rich. I mean, it'd make you nauseous inside the cabin, and I thought maybe there was a fuel leak, but it was burnt gases. So there were a couple things that came to mind. First, the air pump was disconnected. So the thought came through my mind that the exhaust gases coming through the air pump may cause those gases to come up through the cabin, because they were just stuck in the engine compartment. So I went ahead and fixed that because I knew that was definitely an issue. Now, the second part of the problem was after I had fixed that, it fixed it a little bit, but didn't correct the problem. It was still running rich, and I could still smell the gases through the cabin. So I decided that I was going to do a complete tune-up, and I changed the wires and made sure that the wires were good and everything was good to go. All the vacuum lines, I mean, often you'll see on the forums that the vacuum lines, check the vacuum lines, check the vacuum lines, check the vacuum lines. Of course, I checked the vacuum lines. I had spare ones that I got from the junkyard. I tested them, and of course, they were all good. It didn't really help my situation. So what did I do from there? I decided that possibly it could be the coolant temperature sensor. My water pump was starting to leak, so while I was there, I says, you know what, let's change the coolant temperature sensor, because that could be definitely the problem. Because if it's telling the computer the wrong temperature, then obviously I would never go to closed loop. So for the 25 bucks that I spent, I just went ahead and changed the coolant sensor. Now, I changed the coolant sensor. There really was no difference. I was still running rich, and I was still having a problem. So I had to think back about what I did with the car earlier, and what I did with the car earlier was I changed the fuel pump. Now, the fuel pump, when I dropped the tank, there was a lot of crap inside the tank, and when it came to the fuel pump, the filter on the bottom of the fuel pump was all broken apart, and some of it got clogged into the fuel pump. So I went to thinking, and I says, well, maybe that some of those materials or pieces of material got stuck in my regulator. So I decided to look at my regulator and change out the regulator for, I think it was like 25 bucks. So the regulator was definitely an issue. It's because as soon as I changed the regulator, the car started to run a whole lot better. Okay, so although it didn't cure my surging issue, I still had a surging issue with the car, but the car definitely wouldn't stall out anymore, and the smell of the hydrocarbons did get a little bit better. It didn't fix it completely, but it didn't. It did make a definite improvement when I did change it. Okay, so I imagine it probably had over 100,000 miles on it, and it was probably due to be changed. So definitely, I think this was a two-headed monster. It's because once I had changed that, I noted the improvement, but the surging was definitely an issue. So a lot of people say, oh, it's your air control valve, or oh, you have a vacuum leak. Well, I don't have those. And when I pulled off the IAC was clean as a whistle. There's no carbon buildup. There's no carbon inside the intakes. If anything, the car was running super lean as a result of a couple problems that I had previously, such as the brake booster leaking air, and because it was leaking air, obviously that could cause a lean condition because the vacuum was going somewhere else. So I had replaced that, but that didn't correct the problem either. It did correct it from stalling, but it didn't correct the problem from the surging. So I have to go a little bit farther. Okay, I had to go a little bit farther, and one thing I noted, and I had a Mustang before, was the car would run well. It wouldn't run well. I mean, it would run shitty, but it would still run. And I had an issue with my Mustang in which the computer was actually bad. it didn't send off any codes as being bad, but it was actually bad. And what happens is there's some capacitors inside that computer that actually start to break down, and they don't give the proper reference voltages for your throttle position sensor, your coolant sensors, and it starts to throw things out of whack, which actually starts to make the car run a little bit funny. So for $71, I went to Napa and got myself a computer. As soon as I replaced the computer, started the car up, it went through its learning process, and here's what the result is. So after replacing the computer, it made a world of difference. If the capacitors in that computer are compromised, it's going to compromise the voltages going to your sensors. And when your voltages are compromised at the sensors, then the signals back to the computer are going to be messed up. And it's going to start to cause a problem such as the surging that I had. So just because it's surging doesn't mean it's something outside of that computer. So here you go. You can see that the computer and the engine is running at rock solid 850 to 900. Okay, it's not moving from there. It doesn't move at all when I drive it. Check engine lights off. Come out to the back. Okay. You hear that fuel pump? It's running super smooth. We're gonna go to the front of the engine. There's no hesitation, no shaking, no problems with that engine now. Okay. Look in the back there, you can see the new fuel pressure regulator. Okay. And just to add to a note, I did a water pump job and the timing chain was changed. So this has over 100-something thousand miles on it, and that timing chain was pretty loose. For 25 bucks, it's definitely a thing that you should do. Probably helps my idle quality, but I don't think that was the issue at all. It was a computer for sure. If you have any questions, just post them and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a great one.